On This Week in Iowa, Governor Reynolds is upset about the continued trade war, that migrant crisis on the border. What's really going on? Plus the challenges facing our first responders in rural Iowa, and a conversation about a controversial psych facility in the heart of the state. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. I'm Sabrina Ahmed. The big story making headlines across the nation and right here in Iowa is the migrant crisis on the border of the U.S. and Mexico. This week, President Trump signed an executive order that allows families to stay together through the prosecution process on the border. Congress was expected to pass some sort of immigration policy this week to solidify that, but talks in the House were stalled because members couldn't reach a compromise. Senator Chuck Grassley says legislation is a must.
The president can change it, but then another president can come along and change it back. And this is, we're elected, Senator Schumer and I are elected to make policy. And this is where Senator Schumer should be directing his efforts towards a bipartisan solution.
Many Republicans want Border Patrol and funding for a wall included in whatever legislation is brought up. Democrats, on the other hand, aren't willing to give up on their ideas for a pathway to citizenship. Meanwhile, the talks about tariffs and trade negotiations are having a real impact on Iowa farmers and animal producers. Tonight and this morning, Governor Reynolds is asking for help. For months now, the White House has been slapping tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada in the name of getting better trade deals in writing to help Americans. But Iowa farmers are feeling the negative impacts on the price of their products. Governor Reynolds says today that it's time to stop.
We're reaching out to the administration this week, so we'll be talking to cabinet members and the administration again and telling them the same thing, that our farmers want to work with you, but we need to get something done because they produce and we have a fragile economy. Things are going really well and we want to continue that momentum. We don't want to go backwards.
The president threatened tariffs on an additional $200 billion of Chinese goods this week. We need to take a quick break, but coming up next, the immigration crisis is hitting close to home for many in Iowa. Hear from a local immigration attorney on what these families go through. Next.
She's accused of faking 3 pregnancies.
I lost the twins.
The coroner's office has no record.
5 babies' deaths.
There was a balloon release ceremony.
Mourning make-believe babies.
One of these women.
I didn't want her to do this to anybody else.
Courtney saw the babies with her own eyes.
Is not telling the truth.
For the first time in nearly 2 years, these women come face to face.
Next, Dr. Phil.
Monday at 4 on Local 5.
Enjoy all of Adventureland's rides, shows, and attractions, including Bernie's Barnyard Kids Area, coming in June. The Monster and Adventure Bay. Fun for the whole family. 2 great parks, all for one low price. Open daily at 10 a.m. in Des Moines. Come on over to Adventureland. You're gonna love it at Adventureland.
At Local 5, we tell the stories that matter to you about the events.
It's great for our community and great for the kids of Central Iowa. That's the main reason. It's really about the kids.
And the Iowans who make a difference.
A lot of people behind the scenes who don't get credit for it, the volunteers.
There's a lot of us that have worked all 18 years.
Affecting the community we live in.
I got this new bike. I'll be able to do a lot more. It's really cool.
Watch the touching moments of the Principal Charity Classic and all our extensive team coverage at weareiowa.com.
From the farmtowns to the downtowns to the suburbs, a common feeling lives inside of you and me. And no matter where we go, Central Iowa's in our souls, and it's what keeps us connected to this place. And I love living local. It's the only kind of beer I want to breathe. We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
From the capital city, you're watching This Week in Iowa with Sabrina Ahmed, getting to the heart of what's happening in Iowa politics.
Welcome back, everyone. We are joined now by Lori Chesser, who is an immigration attorney with the Davis Brown Law Firm in Des Moines, and we're here to talk about the controversial immigration issue of separating families at the border and kind of what's ensued since then. Lori, first of all, just to give our viewers a bit of background, tell us what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm an immigration attorney with Davis Brown Law Firm, and our firm represents people in all types of immigration applications. So we are in touch with what's going on with immigration.
Absolutely. So, first, tell us what the change was that created so much controversy and so much chaos, if you will.
Sure. Well, the Attorney General Sessions decided that first of all, there would be a zero tolerance policy, as he calls it, for people who don't enter at the border checkpoints, that they would all be prosecuted. And in that process, because the people would be prosecuted and sent to jail, their children were taken away from them and housed elsewhere, because children can't really be put in jail.
Okay, so there was this growing outrage across the political spectrum. The Trump administration blamed this Supreme Court ruling, but then he signed an executive order saying that the families will be kept together, but these families there's still a zero tolerance policy. That hasn't changed. Make sense of this for our viewers who are sitting at home going, what is going on?
Right. Well, it is complicated, and I'll try to just give you a really high-level view.
Okay. And we have video here of some of these children who are being separated at the border from their families.
And it's so sad. Yeah. So, so this idea, people are coming, it's first very important to understand that most of the people we're talking about are coming as refugees. They're coming from Central America. They're fleeing the drug cartels who are supplying drugs to the United States. And so the drug cartels have caused this violence. They recruit their children. They do terrible things to their children or to them if they won't cooperate. So they're fleeing. Now, when they flee, they go to border, they try to get to border checkpoints, but a lot of times for various reasons they don't end up at border checkpoints. And so what the administration is doing is saying, if you don't enter at a border checkpoint, they're going to consider you an illegal entrant, even though you're really a refugee. So they're in that situation, they're saying, we're going to prosecute you no matter what, we're going to prosecute you. Now, you can still claim that you need asylum, but we're going to make you go through that process while detained, while in jail, basically. And so they decided we'll keep the children separated because there is a Supreme Court, well, it's a legal settlement, basically, in the Flores case that says children should not be kept in detention more than 20 days. And so they're saying, well, it's going to take longer or whatever. We can't keep the children together. Now the president's decided, well, we can keep people together, but the main point for people to remember is that these are refugees and they're actually being put in detention, which is basically like jail, and now they'll just be put in detention as a family instead of separately children and parents. So it's better, but it's not really ideal still.
Okay, so help me understand, is there something that these immigrants, these people who are fleeing these areas of Central America, Southern America, as they come to the border, is there something that they can be doing differently to ensure that they aren't jailed? I mean, is there a way to communicate that to them? You know.
Right. Well, so there are border checkpoints.
Right.
There are some problems with that. I mean, obviously, we don't have any communication with people who are going across the desert, and and so some people are showing up at checkpoints. My understanding from friends in Texas is a lot of them are being told to wait for days in the hot sun with their children, and so sometimes, of course, they give up on that and go in a different way. Also, some hire smugglers to get them up here safely who know how to do that. They're not going to take them to a border checkpoint. So it's really, it is a question of communication, but in another sense, it's a question of how do you, in reality, treat people who are fleeing for their lives.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So, what happens to these families now that they are allowed to stay together? I mean, the families, there's also this chaos of families not being able to find their kids anymore.
Right. So if they've been separated, there's no plan so far to reunite people who have been separated. Yeah, so we don't know what's going to happen with those children, and that's something we need the government needs to take care of, because some of their parents have been deported, and we still have the kids. Yeah. But on the other hand, what will happen is people in this situation, unless we change this policy, will be jailed basically with their families. And we have people that have been in that detention for a long time from other situations. They don't have lawyers. A lot of lawyers are volunteering, but there are alternatives that we really need to think about, so, you know, we need to get to that.
Okay, we just have a few seconds left, so two questions. Number one, can you tell me what you think, what policy do you think needs to be enacted? I mean, I know that's a huge, daunting question of immigration reform that would help to fix this problem, and then also, does this really impact Iowans?
Well, I would say, first of all, that people do have relatives that maybe are in Iowa. This might be their destination location. But in terms of the policy for this particular thing, I think we need to think about how we treat refugees. We had a program where people would just be, you know, admitted to the country if they expressed that they were seeking refuge. They would be tracked. They would be helped to make their appointments for the judge and things like that. I don't know why we feel we have to put them in detention. So I think if we could just change that policy to a realistic humanitarian policy of how you treat people fleeing terrible situations, not treat them as illegal entrants, but treat them as the refugees they are, I think we would see this completely go away.
Well, we'll just have to see how it all unfolds, especially as Congress tries to pass something this week.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Lori.
My pleasure.
Short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
Alexa, give me my Local 5 news headlines.
I'm Local 5's Sabrina Ahmed with today's top stories. Set up your flash briefings by adding the We Are Iowa skills to your Alexa app.
You'll hear Local 5's top news stories updated 4 times a day.
And plan your day with We Are Iowa's most accurate weather team, as I tell you if you need this or these.
Go to weareiowa.com/Alexa for easy setup instructions.
Alexa, tell me We Are Iowa's most accurate forecast.
I'm Local 5 meteorologist Taylor Canuse.
This station seeks groups that regularly send information about work opportunities to job applicants or that have applicants to refer. If your group would like to receive notification of job vacancies at our station, contact us by U.S. mail, email, or by calling 457-9645. Individuals interested in employment in the broadcast industry are encouraged to visit weareiowa.com for a list of current job openings. Nexstar Broadcasting Companies are an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, you golfers! Are you ready for some golfing? Come to the 12th Annual Rock and Prevention Golf Classic, Monday, July 16th at Blank Golf Course. Iowan and NBA head coach Nick Nurse will be our dinner speaker. Are you ready to rock? Come on out and rock golf. Blank Golf Course, registration at 9:30. Shotgun start at 11 and dinner at 5. Have fun. Help the kids.
Join the conversation on Facebook. See our stories and share yours. Like Local 5's page today at We Are Iowa.
Season 2 is coming. From big cities to small towns, come out to audition and live out your dream.
You're going to
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We are switching gears now to talk about Iowa's prison system and some major issues that our state is facing in the Public Safety Department. So I'm joined now by Jerry Bartriff, who is the Director of the Department of Corrections, and Roxanne Ryan, who is the Commissioner of Public Safety. Both of you, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
So there was a forum held earlier this week talking about Iowa's public safety. Both of you were very heavily involved. It was all to come up with solutions to Iowa's biggest problems in the Public Safety and Corrections Department. So one of the topics discussed was combating crime in rural areas. So let's get started talking about the challenges that officers face in rural parts of the state. Roxanne.
One of the issues that we have is the lack of resources to support law enforcement, and in particular the concerns that we have with mental health issues and particularly with substance abuse issues. Right now we're seeing increases in drug-related cases, drug trafficking that is occurring in the rural areas, and of course the demand also fuels the sales of drugs. So if we could have better mental health resources available in the rural areas, I think that would help us to address some of those rural drug problems.
So this is a problem, a potential for a solution. At this forum, were any real ideas addressed and how that could happen?
Yes, actually, the primary theme of the forum was the talk about collaboration. And I think the more that we talk with each other and the more that we figure out which resources are available, the easier it's going to be for all of us to be able to find the right kinds of treatment for people who are in desperate need of that.
And kind of in that same realm, of course, is the opioid crisis that our state is dealing with. Jerry, how much are you experiencing people who are addicted to opioids when they come into the correctional facilities?
It's increasing. It still is not at the level in Iowa that it is in some other states. However, we begin to see the impact, especially in community-based corrections, where folks are under supervision in the community, have access to opioids, and begin then to experience those issues that come along with substance abuse addiction and the link with criminal behavior. Oftentimes it begins the process of revoking people from probation or parole and sending them back to prison. One of the things that I think is important to recognize is just because you take somebody out of the community that has a substance abuse problem and incarcerate them, those same kind of issues are going to come back again when they go back to the community, if they go back to the same places that they lived, interact with the same people that they were interacting with. So making sure that we have treatment as part of their probation and parole supervision during that really critical time when they return to the communities is important.
Okay, so a lot of this, of course, has to do with funding and making sure that the funding exists. So we will get there in just a moment. But first I want to talk to you, Jerry. Just tell us what you think are maybe the three biggest challenges that the state's correctional facilities face right now.
I think one of the things that we're facing is that we find our prison population holding around 8,500, which is significantly higher than it was even 2 years ago. So making sure that we're incarcerating only those who need it, and making sure that we're focusing our resources on those most likely to reoffend before they return to the community. Also making sure that our institutions are safe and secure so that we can have an environment where training and programs can have an impact on folks. That's another big issue. But addressing the mental illness side of it is probably one of the biggest ones, because unfortunately we find people who had difficulty accessing services in the community who end up involved in some kind of criminal behavior when the primary issue was mental illness. So when people come to prison, there's a history of mental illness. About 25% of our population have a serious and persistent mental illness, and over 50% have a history of mental illness treatment. So we think incarceration is the time to focus some resources and give access to treatment that people didn't have in the community. But then our big and we have several different levels of care. We've got good psychiatrists and psychologists and nurses at hand. People don't have to worry about food, clothing, or shelter. But how then do we make sure that those services that we provide, the stability that we provide with folks, how do we make sure that that can be maintained when they return to the community?
A lot of this sounds like a funding problem. So talk to me, Roxanne, about how this is a funding issue across our state.
It certainly has an impact on everything that we do, and part of it is funding for law enforcement. We need to be able to have enough officers to be able to respond to the acute problems. But the other issue, I think, is making sure that we have funding at the local, state, and federal level to be able to address whatever needs arise. I think a lot of times people believe that state funding is the key to everything, but it's actually a combination of all levels of funding, and the local governments, I think, always have challenges in being able to address all of the different issues that they're facing in the community. And although public safety is one of those important foundational requirements in the community, sometimes the funding is just not there to be able to provide that.
Did we come up with action items from this forum?
We did, and I think most of it is that the focus of the forum was specifically identifying some of the issues. Bringing people together that have a hand in what's going on at the local level, at the state level, at the treatment level, and making sure that we begin that process of collectively and collaboratively working together. I think one of the things that's responsible for good fiscal management in any kind of state government is that people involved in public safety may have different funding streams, but collectively, if we use our resources together, we can make a difference.
Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. We'll take a short break, but coming up, a controversial proposal about a psychiatric facility in central Iowa. Discussions on mental health. We'll continue that when we come back.
Join us every Sunday at 10 on Local 5 for the Iowa Realty Sunday Home Show. featuring new construction neighborhoods around the metro by the best builders in the market. We chat with builders and Iowa Realty professionals about open house, trends in the industry, financing information, and existing inventory. And our special Great Iowa Home feature each week showcases a luxury home listed by Iowa Realty. Now in our 34th year at 10 a.m. Sunday on Local 5 or at iowarealty.com.
The skills you can develop in the Army National Guard can give you an edge in the high-tech job market of tomorrow. The Guard offers career training to take advantage of your interests in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Gain practical experience with emerging technology and equipment that you can transfer to an exciting new field. Get a head start on your career while serving part-time and earning money to pay for college. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
This station strives to provide quality children's television programming and endeavors to meet the children's television requirements set by the FCC and the Children's Television Act of 1990. We prepare a quarterly children's television report describing each program we broadcast. We invite the public to read this report during regular business hours and comment on the educational and informational needs of children in our community. Thank you.
Really wanted a big dream wedding, but my fiance wants to save money.
Let him do what he needs to do, because the rest of his life, he's gonna do whatever you tell him to do.
Next, Terry, amazing wisdom from lifestyle guru Ayala Van Zandt.
People just don't know how powerful we are with a thought and a spoken word.
And it's the highest mountain in Africa. They're just 8 and 10. The incredible story of their epic climb.
This is amazing.
Monday at 3 on Local 5. You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
Welcome back, everyone. We're finishing our show this morning talking about something that impacts just about every single Iowan, and that is mental health. We are joined by Mary Thompson, is the director of Mercy's Mercy Medical's Behavioral Health Department. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Mary, thank you so much for being here. Mercy leaders held a public meeting in Des Moines this week to one of the suburbs of Clive, that is, and talking about putting a behavioral health facility there, a mental health facility. So first of all, can you talk to us about the response that you heard from the community and how it surprised you a little bit?
We had a meeting sponsored by the mayor and the city council of Clive last Tuesday night, and we had a very nice turnout. There were, I believe, around 50 people in attendance. The meeting went very well. But we did hear some feedback and some concerns from local residents about the location of the facility and concern that the facility was close to residential areas. So that was a bit surprising. Some of the comments were also surprising in terms of people's perceptions of how patients would be treated and their perhaps visibility and in the community of Clive.
So tell me what this facility would do if it does go in this location.
Well, we're planning a 100-bed freestanding behavioral health hospital. We would have those beds split between adult patients, geriatric patients, and children and adolescents. And we would provide hospital care for those patients there. We're also considering placing some outpatient programs there, intensive outpatient programs, partial hospitalization programs to support the care of folks who are done with their inpatient care.
Okay, so why is this necessary?
Every day when I go into work, I look at the list of patients waiting to be placed on our behavioral health units. Our admissions for both our child, adolescent, and our adult units have increased 40% over the last 2 years. So we are really challenged to meet the needs of patients just presenting to Mercy. And one of the things that bothers me is we're not really able to do outreach to other communities. We're really just handling what we have present within our medical system at Mercy.
So what sort of approval is needed in order to get this facility up and running?
We have filed a certificate of need application with the state, and that was submitted May 28th, I believe, and we have a formal hearing process this in front of the Certificate of Need Approval Board on July 26th. So we have prepared an application and will present testimony as to our need for this facility in the area.
Do you think it'll end up being passed?
We don't know. We are hopeful. We believe we have a good case for the need for the facility.
Talk to me about the misconceptions with mental health and this facility and some of these concerns that you heard at this meeting.
I think it's a little hard to talk about because it really gets to the stigma of mental illness. That's one of the reasons I'm passionate about my work. Mental illness affects so many people. Up to 30% of people in any given group are on a psychoactive medication. 1 in 5 Iowans suffers from mental illness. But the stigma persists in terms of the feelings of what a mental health patient actually does or how they behave. So what we're hearing is there's concerns that mental health patients would escape from the facility or cause disruption in the community at large, and that's really not been my experience in my 32 years of behavioral health. We are most concerned about our patients' safety. Our facilities, every facility I've worked in has been very secure. This facility will be designed with that purpose in mind, and our concerns as treating clinicians is our safety of our patients. We're most concerned that they remain in treatment so that they will achieve the outcomes that they need.
Just very quickly, tell me your message to Iowans.
This is a needed facility. I've been very pleased. By and large, the outcome, or the reaction rather, to the proposal has been exceedingly positive, and I just look forward to being able to support meeting that need in the state of Iowa.
Mary Thompson, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
Chris Gracious was a boy with a wish, one that would make other wishes come true. Like many kids, Chris wanted to grow up and become a highway patrolman, but he was seriously ill. When Arizona troopers heard about Chris, they swore him in. With a uniform and a day on the force, the Make-A-Wish program for children with life-threatening medical conditions began. And with your help, local kids have met stars and traveled to places where wishes come true.
Warrior Lanes encourages you to volunteer for the children in your community.
Oh, there's something so real about Central Iowa, about the people and the places where we live. There's a pride around here that's been growing with the years, and I know without a doubt I'm not alone. And I love being living local. Central Iowa is where I want to be. We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
Selfless service is the principle that guides Army National Guard soldiers to be ready whenever disaster strikes. They have a stake in the well-being of the neighborhoods where they live and work. They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times. Selfless service. It's what inspires the men and women of the Army National Guard to be part of something greater than themselves. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more.
Join us every Sunday at 10 on Local 5 for the Iowa Realty Sunday Home Show, featuring new construction neighborhoods around the metro by the best builders in the market. We chat with builders and Iowa Realty professionals about open house, trends in the industry, financing information, and existing inventory. And our special Great Iowa Home feature each week showcases a luxury home listed by Iowa Realty. Now in our 34th year at 10 a.m. Sunday on Local 5 or at iowarealty.com.
Thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. We hope you learned a little bit more about the migrant situation on the border, public safety issues, and mental health needs in our communities. We hope to see you again next Sunday.